we saw Ryan Connolly. He didn't play the other day. Now he's on the sideline again. How much is this related to the injury that he's had in the past, or something you're going to have to monitor moving forward?
Well, you know what? First off, I'm not going to go into any specific injuries really at any time. But I'll say this, Jordan. You look, we had several players that we kind of managed a little bit different today. You know, we came off a long, hard week, a hard scrimmage the other day. We gave him a day off yesterday. Today was really a day to mentally take a step forward, but physically get our bodies right. And then we're going to hit the field again tomorrow. We'll see where everyone's at tonight after a couple of days off. And, we'll approach practice tomorrow accordingly for everyone individually.
When you finished watching that scrimmage, you said you were going to go back and look, and then you'll talk about some things. What were your primary takeaways from going back to be able to watch that?
Well, I liked the way everyone came out and competed. That definitely showed up on the tape. Guys were flying around. Guys were playing fast. I thought we had good communication on both sides of the ball. We had a lot of substitution situations that both sides handled, accordingly. You saw a lot of young guys step up. We played faster on Friday than we had earlier in the week. You could tell they're getting more confident, comfortable within the scheme. That was definitely something that showed up right away.
Just was curious your reaction to the false negative coronavirus test from like a bigger picture, something you guys might have to deal with through the whole year perspective, and any clarity on if that involved you guys at all.
You know what? I can't go into what any other club is dealing with, specifically. Again, Ronnie Barnes and his staff will handle all the, testing protocols. We have confidence in what's going on and what the league has in place. We're following them internally every day. We social distance within the building. We obviously test on a daily basis. So I can't speak on what's going on around the league and other clubs, but we were able to come out today and, everyone was out here, everyone was present.
Thanks. Pat Leonard.
Joe, just a logistical question on that. Are you guys tested at the same facility where that occurred, or are you not aware of whether or not that is the case?
I'm not aware. We have a trailer in our parking lot where everyone in our organization gets tested on a daily basis. Everyone shows up, parks their car, goes through the trailer. There's a survey you got to fill out first as far as, relating to any symptoms. And then you go through, the nose swab, you go through the temperature check, and, they let you in, they go about your day. You get the results later on. So, I think one thing that's made clear to us from the very beginning, from the doctors in the league, is, testing is a part of it. But it's the social distancing, it's the wearing the PPEs, it's the taking the steps on a daily basis that are really the most effective measures that we can follow. We have confidence in what's going on. Our players and coaches have confidence in it. We stay on each other, keep each other accountable, and make sure that, we give ourselves the best chance of being a healthy team.
Have you gotten ahead enough to make a plan for, say, like if this happens on an NFL Sunday, right, and you have a game, have you even been able to look into, okay, what's our plan for that going to be? What's the day of reaction? Have you gotten into that type of planning?
Yeah, so actually, Pat, we sat down this spring and talked about a lot of what ifs. And we put down basically a contingency plan for if any coach or staff member wasn't available on a daily basis, whether it's a practice day, whether it's a game day, how we would go ahead and make sure we made the adjustments. And then along with that, it's not just if one person's missing. What if there's multiple people missing? Who handles each responsibility? We're going beyond the coaching staff right now to keep a lot of different people in the organization involved, that if it was ever an emergency situation, we have people who are up to date on schematically and conceptually what we're doing football-wise, to have as many hands on deck available for us. In terms of a player's standpoint with the depth chart and the roster, how that may be affected, we're always preparing every player to play every day. So it's our job to get everyone ready on the roster. It's our job to have plans in place, whether somebody gets disqualified due to a testing measure or somebody gets hurt on the first play. That's our job, is to have a plan and how to adjust. So to answer your question, yes, we're always planning ahead. And those plans always change based on where we are internally, with what we're doing.
You've gone beyond the coaching staff, meaning like scouts?
Everyone we have availability to within the building that could help us out within anything from game planning to on the field, strength coaches, QCs, some of the, tech interns that we have that are working in analytics. These are people that are involved and present in our meetings every day. As far as I'm concerned, if you're in a meeting, you better learn the material. If you know the material, you better have a voice when it's asked. So, we're probably putting everybody in the organization right now to be ready. We've addressed it individually with people so they know what it is. It's obviously a down the line type of plan, but you have to have an emergency plan, right? And that's what an emergency would be, when you have to go outside the framework of your immediate coaching staff.
I'm curious, you've talked about your coaching staff and your assistants being teachers and wanting to dig in with each individual player development. Over the course, as we go here and, the practices get more game-specific, geared towards that, are you personally measuring, watching how guys are working individually, kind of checking off boxes for each individual player, in addition to how they're working their collective unit?
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, look, when I go back and I watch the tape from the scrimmage, you watch it 3 different times. First, you watch it schematically. Then you watch it fundamentally. Then you watch it from a personnel standpoint. And as you watch it every time over and over differently, you try to pick up as much as you can and continuously just write down notes. There were several players coming out that, we had to address some fundamental corrections today. We made sure we took time individually to walk through the techniques. Tomorrow we'll be out there, a full speed tempo that we can go ahead and take those same techniques and execute them again. These guys are, less than 2 weeks into playing football in 2020. So we can't take for granted that they need the fundamental work on a daily basis. In terms of all of our coaches being teachers, that's how we approach everything, Art. They've got to hit every player individually and however they learn best. We spent the spring, virtually on computers looking at each other. Some guys absorb more than others. You get them in person now. Some guys can sit in a meeting and absorb it. Some guys have to watch tape of examples being done the right way. A lot of guys need to be on their feet and experience it to really understand the concept. So now that we're in person, we're looking to hit every way of teaching with every player possible.
Hey, Joe, just kind of a broad question as we get into the second week of pad. Seems like that's when guys get a little testier. We haven't seen it yet. So I'm just curious, what's your policy on practice fights?
Well, it's real simple. You fight in a game, you're ejected, you're fined, and it's a penalty for the team. So we're not going to practice anything that we're not going to do in a game. You have the opportunity to play as hard as you want between the whistles, and that's what we're going to do. We're not looking for cheap shots. We're going to play nasty, but we're not going to play dirty. There's a difference. And, for our guys, we understand that we can't do anything that's going to put ourselves behind. Penalties, turnovers, those are major factors in losing games. And we're going to make sure that anything that relates to penalties, we're going to coach and make sure that we don't accept it.
So safe to say you get thrown out of practice if you got in a fight?
Yeah, if you're going to get thrown out of a game, you're going to get thrown out of practice.
Gotcha. Thanks.
No problem.
Brock?
Joe, I wanted to ask you, first of all, you mentioned about young players sort of catching up to speed and playing a little faster. Darnay Holmes, is he in that group, or has he been playing at that level really since you guys started?
Oh, well, I'd say every young player is still catching up to the speed, and they're all really on their own individual basis. It's not like they all flow together as a group and all jump up the same level. But I think Darnay's done a good job of, really learning the speed of the game and adjusting fast. He's a smart guy. He prepares very well. He learns. He's a guy that can apply lessons not only from his own mistakes but from watching other people. So, he's a guy that comes out every day, really has a purpose and a plan of what he's doing. I'd say that I'm very pleased with the progress he's making right now, and he is learning to play faster. The biggest test for these guys is not going to have preseason games. So the first time we're going to see game speed, we're going to try to recreate that best we can this year. On Friday we have an inter-squad game. But the reality is it's not going to happen until kickoff on September 14th.
And then sort of a big picture question, a lot of times when players get hurt, and they do get hurt, there's a next man up mentality. Your schemes seem to be so driven by the players and what they can do individually. Is it less so with you? Can an injured player change the personality of the team on the field?
Well, we're going to always work to what players do well, Tom. So if you lose one player, another player comes in, will that change some of the scheme or the concepts we're working with? Then possibly. Possibly. We want to go ahead and get everyone to be on the same page in a game plan wise, but everyone can't be – the game plan can't be a one-size-fits-all. When there's movement with personnel, we have to be flexible as coaches to adjust how we're calling the game and play to those players' strengths. So to me, it's when a new player goes in, we have to have a plan going into that game for that situation of if so-and-so's in the game, how are we calling this game? Based on what quarterback's in the game. What are the favorite plays of the guys that's in the huddle at that point? How are we calling this? What's he feel most comfortable with? The receivers. Some guys are more deep threats. Some guys are more underneath. Quick guys are going to succeed more, in short space quickness. How are you going to call the plays according to that? Which running back's in the game? Obviously, every running back on our roster is different physically with a different personality within his style of play. So we can't just go ahead and just put, pegs in a holes thinking everything's going to fit one size fits all. We've got to make sure we call the game accordingly to who's in the game. That's a very big part of what we're going to do.
This is kind of because of the protocols, are you going to have to, on your practice squad, carry an extra punter and an extra kicker? Let's say your kicker or punter tests positive 2 days before the game. You really can't bring somebody in. How do you handle that?
Well, you know what? If it's a couple days before the game, obviously that's tougher with the way the protocols are. We've discussed all options of the practice squad. We're not at a hard spot right now in terms of exactly who we're going to fill in what spots. Those are things we've talked about. The other thing we've talked about with all of our players is, the more you can do. We went through that phase 2 kind of time with all the players before you guys were out there, working everybody as a long snapper. Everyone's a punt returner. We've talked to players. We haven't worked them all out individually as kickers or punters. But look, we have professional athletes. These guys have all been, really good athletes their entire life. So it's amazing how many guys have been the punter, the kicker for their high school team. Someone may be able to get you out of a game if needed. So we're exploring all options with personnel in the practice squad in terms of that next man up mentality. But we're also making sure that we have answers on the roster for whatever comes up.